Everyone, hope you guys are well. This is the Gameweek 17 deadline stream, and we're looking forward to, of course, making some transfers potentially. I'm definitely eyeing up a hit right now, um, but we'll see. I've already made one transfer, which is Haaland to Watkins, and apologies, of course, for the change in setup. But of course, I am traveling right now. I'm in Japan, so just in a hotel room right here at 2:30 a.m. doing a live stream for you all. So hope you guys are doing well yourselves. In terms of chat, let's just quickly go through that. Let me just quickly have a look and see if there's any sort of last minute news. Um, yeah, so unfortunately, not too much news really in terms of, let's say, Haaland. I do think that he's out. My assumption is that he's 100% out for the Crystal Palace game. You might disagree with me, but personally, I think he is. Um, and yeah, that's the big thing I would say right now this week. I think Haaland is definitely out, so that's why I've gone Haaland to Watkins within my team. I don't have any sort of inside sources in terms of Man City, but everything Pep has said and other things would suggest, in my opinion, that Haaland is out. And I think FPL Tony as well um, might be posting soon as well. Um, he could be someone, of course, who we could look towards in the next 47 minutes or 57 minutes rather to help us out in terms of the news. Uh, but yeah. Oh, okay. And 19th, he's just posted, guys. We just got the news. We just got the news. So FPL Tony says, and this is the person that actually initially leaked Haaland out for Game Week 16. So he's actually just said that the early transfers gang won't be punished this time. So he's basically telling us that Haaland is out. So 100% out now. Which actually I think makes me a bit more confident, if I'm honest, to take a hit. So we'll have to see what happens there. But that's the big league, guys. Haaland is definitely out, as far as I'm aware. Definitely out. I'm just gonna quickly put that as a pinned message, but that is massive. This is my bedtime stream, and yeah, you guys might find this funny, but I'm trying to speak not too loud because my wife is in bed. She's got her earplugs in, and yeah, I'm sat here in a hotel room. It's basically pitch black at night in Kyoto, where I am in Japan. So, all right, let's get the stream going though. But you know what? I'm actually pretty tempted to take a hit now. If 100% Holland is out and it's been reconfirmed, I really want to go Alvarez to Archer. I mean Archer to Alvarez. All right, so let's quickly go chat. JP says, "Hi Fran, bench one out of Lascelles, Gabriel, Simicas, and Pinnock." Um, I would probably bench Pinnock. I think it's the worst fixture by far. Soldier Boy then asks thoughts on Anderson to Pau. Pau is fantastic, actually. I think Pau is better than Konsa for sure. Um, so I sort of mentioned Pau Torres on the cheat sheet as well. I think in terms of the video, I didn't obviously have him on the sheet, but yeah, I do think Pau is a better pick than Konsa if you can afford it. Dennis says, "Would you bench Gabriel or Pinnock?" Same thing here. I would just bench Pinnock. I think ultimately we have to sort of look at Aston Villa, right, as just about as good as a team um, as Brighton, and they're definitely better in my opinion as an attack so far. So when I compare, let's say, Arsenal defense versus, um, the Brentford defense, I don't think it's particularly close. Um, so yeah, I would definitely pick Gabriel. I'm definitely comfortable playing Gabriel this week, but I don't know if that's the best solution for my team. As I said, I am very very much leaning towards the hit, so we'll have to see what happens. Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna quickly have a look at Twitter again, just to see if how people are reacting to the news, which is obviously crazy, but it is what it is. Yeah, I don't think we'll get any Gordon news. By the way, a lot of people are saying they're sort of waiting for Gordon news, but Gordon, look, he has a late fitness test, and my concern with Gordon is Newcastle have ways to play where Gordon can be on the bench, right? He could easily have Joe Linton playing. You can have Longstaff back in the midfield, and Gordon can come on as a late substitute, right? If let's say Gordon isn't particularly fit, but he's assessed and he's ready to be a part of the squad, then you have a bigger issue, right? I don't really want to be bringing Gordon in this week if I think he can come off the bench, and I think there's a decent chance of that. So in sort of looking at that situation, and also for example, just knowing that Gordon is struggling with his fitness, it's very likely that he could be an early substitute once again, right? He hasn't had much time to rest since his previous fixture in the midweek game, and so you're looking at an opportunity for Gordon to once again be an early substitute. For that reason alone, I would say Gordon's probably someone that I would actually put on the bench this week, but I wouldn't sell Gordon necessarily. Now, if you could go Gordon to Richarlison for free, or you're doing a wild card, I probably wouldn't have Gordon on the wild card, and I probably would consider going Richarlison. So those are my thoughts on Gordon, just in general. I hope that answers a lot of people's questions. Canon's also asking a question. He's saying, would I start Solanke over Gordon? Absolutely, for the same reason. Absolutely. Best Haaland replacement if you already own Solanke and Watkins? I think it's Alvarez. I think you can definitely hold Alvarez. As I said, I want to take Alvarez in for a -4, but I can't really do that. Hadi Rahiman says, should I play Turner in goal until then rather than make a goalkeeper transfer? Yeah, I think you can play Turner. Hopefully he's back in the team. Yeah. Start Bowen home to Wolves or Watkins? I definitely would. I'd probably start Watkins still, to be honest. I think Brentford have a couple of injuries as well, so that adds into it. Andre, I'm doing good, thank you. Trip is good. Really enjoying Japan. Jet lag, getting used to it. But yeah, we will see. We will see. And yeah, thank you, Canon, as well. Drop a like, absolutely, to support the channel. Hey, G-Man's hairline. Who is G-Man? Sanan says, have 2 free transfers, Haaland to Watkins and Archer to Solanke. Yeah, I quite like Archer to Solanke. If let's say you think your squad is quite weak for Gameweek 18, right? Definitely Solanke is probably the better pick. But I also generally quite like Alvarez. Phoenix, yeah, appreciate that. Best Chelsea defense options. I don't know if Gusto will start, to be honest, because this would be his first game back in a while, right? And he's been injured. So actually, my audio is a bit low. Let's see if I can adjust that as well. I'm not sure if I can adjust it, to be honest. I think I'm just going to have to keep it at this level. I apologize, but the audio will be a little bit low for today. I don't really know if I can amplify it here. Just don't want to shout, really, basically. Yeah, sorry. I don't think it'll. Let me see if I can change something. Maybe I could do something with I wonder if this is better, guys. Just let me know if it's any better at all. If it's not, it's not. If it's not any better, then let me know. But hopefully the audio level is slightly better. Yeah. All right. So quickly going back to questions in chat. Yeah, best Chelsea defense options. Best Chelsea defense options. Look, I definitely think the best Chelsea defender is Colwill in terms of just getting a guarantee, right? In this situation here to get a start versus Sheffield United. I just think that Sheffield United fixture is so important that if you're looking for a Chelsea defender this week, you have to go Colwill. However, I think obviously if you're thinking a little bit more long term, I think Gusto could be a better pick just because Reece James is out for 3 months. Is Gordon playing or is he confirmed injured? He's not confirmed injured. Gordon could very well play. But the issue, I think, is because Gordon is actually struggling with fitness anyways, we have no guarantees on whether Gordon's going to start and play 60 minutes, going to start and play 90 minutes, or just become a substitute for, let's say, 15, 20, 30 minutes. Keep in mind, though, that Newcastle have a very, very thin squad. So it's pretty tough. Apparently we might have a. Apparently there is a Chelsea squad actually. Sorry guys, there might be a leak. Petrovic, Gusto, Silva, Badiashile, Matson, Caicedo, Gallagher, Sterling, Palmer, Mudryk, and Jackson. So yeah, and Nkunku probably still not ready to start. But you have a situation here where obviously, look, Gusto is actually Gusto might be the go-to Chelsea defender. I would say probably. Vijay, thank you so much for the donation. Really appreciate that. Did you have any comments as well yourself? Otherwise, thank you very much for supporting the stream and the channel. Yeah, that is interesting. I'm really not sure. I think hmm, I I I don't really know. That's not good news. I don't really know what the situation is though, because unless that's Buddy Shield left back. Well, actually, sorry, that's Matson left back, isn't it? Of course. Um, but why Colwell would be dropped is very confusing to me. So I probably have to actually adjust for that as well. I'm not sure if I just take a hit instead and actually just. The problem is I don't actually know any other good Chelsea predictor outside of Nathan Gissing, and Nathan Gissing isn't probably going to give us a Chelsea leak. So, that's a tough situation. So Nathan Gissing is on Instagram CFC news page. Let me just quickly check that before I go back to chat questions, because he usually does post a predicted starting 11 for Chelsea. But yeah, I can't really see any reason why Cole would miss out. Because Cucurella is obviously gone, but Matson sounds ridiculous in my opinion. Like I think that sounds like such a ridiculous shout. We haven't seen much of Matson at all in terms of left back. Um, yeah. Look, hmm. I let me try and follow up on that situation with some friends of mine, who probably know Chelsea a little bit better than me. hmm. That's a really bad position for me, unfortunately, because I think I'd have to take a hit. Okay, well, that is what that is. I've asked the question. Saleh Ahmed says, keep Hwang or transfer out for Tavernier. I think keep Hwang. Keep Hwang 100%. Tavernier is definitely not worth the hit. Um, and sorry, Phil with an F as well. Thank you so much for the donation. Thank you, Saleh, as well. Sorry if I missed it. Do we think Turner starts? I don't think we have any guarantee at all about Turner starting, but given the fact that he started the previous match, I think we've got and only really conceded one goal, I suppose. Maybe we can give him the start. I just don't think it's really worth it taking a hit for any goalkeeper this week. Because obviously the issue with Dubravka is we already had multiple news reports about how Newcastle might be looking for a goalkeeper in January. So that feels a little bit too short-termist now. Um, and ultimately, of course, the people who have good fixtures this week aren't exactly options, right? For example, Petrovic isn't going to be a goalkeeper option. So yeah, I think you'd rather go Haaland to Solanke 100% because you're going to get more upside anyways, from your sort of attacking play there. But ultimately, I think if you're looking for long-term keepers for this week, Leno is obviously a good keeper, but does he have a good fixture necessarily? Not really. So that's probably the question. Any concrete news on Areola? I think he's ready to start, actually, which was the sort of confirmation that we got from Moyes. And honestly, the performances from West Ham and Fabianski himself have been pretty poor, so I think it makes sense. Why bench Gordon? I just don't really want to risk him being a late substitute, basically, which would give me, nothing of value, I suppose. Yeah. Just gonna quickly check some other Chelsea news, just in case we actually have a confirmed leak for Chelsea. I just find it weird that we would actually have the full Chelsea predicted lineup, you know, in ahead of time, and this isn't really a proper source. So, hmm, yeah, tough one there. I don't think we can really trust that source. I think Alvarez makes sense if you guys actually have enough players who can play on 18. So let's say you're on a 3-5-2 structure. If you have two forwards playing next week, right, then you probably don't need Solanke over Alvarez. But I think Solanke is obviously better if you're actually looking for that that second forward, or that third forward rather. It also depends on whether you actually have 5 midfielders. So on Gameweek 18, I can actually play Darwin, right? And I don't mind too much because I think Alvarez actually has a little bit more upside than Solanke this week anyways. So I don't mind too much. Can I talk louder? Unfortunately, I can't right now because the issue that I have right now is I'm recording and it's quite late at night in a hotel room and my wife is sleeping right next to me. So let me see if I can actually adjust it again, to be honest. Hopefully this will make it higher. Hello? Is that any better now, guys? I think that's actually better, so let's just try that. Play Simicast or Huang. I would definitely play Simicast. Rank Gabriel, Simicast, Adingra for this week. I would say Simicast, Gabriel, Adingra in that order. Haaland to Solanke or Archer to Raul Jimenez. Definitely Haaland to Solanke in that situation. I just think that Raul Jimenez this week isn't really going to give you any value, you know? Yeah, sorry guys for the volume. Hopefully this is a lot better. I'm in Tokyo. Well, I'm not in Kyoto right now, but in a few days' time I'll be in Tokyo. You've got Alvarez and Semenyo. Who do I get for Haaland? I'd probably get Watkins, to be honest, because that would actually set your team up, you know, for Game Week 18 as well. That's the big thing I would also recommend to a lot of other managers. You know, if you don't have Watkins right now, this is a week that's really nice to go into Watkins ahead of the time because first of all, Brentford's situation isn't the best, and then second of all, you have a good week where you can just bring in Watkins 1 week early and do that. And Nkunku, I don't think is. I think Nkunku's too big of too big of a risk, guys. Also, by the way, guys, it's a prediction. The Chelsea lineup was a prediction, so I think please do not trust that. Yeah, yeah. All right. So that's the big news, really. I think the question obviously is, you know, what do we do with Mr. Erling Haaland? And there's obviously going to be a couple of questions to ask about that. I might actually take a hit for Alvarez in a moment. We will see. I think my big concern for wanting to take Alvarez in is because I don't have any guarantees with Gordon, and also I just think Alvarez has a tremendous amount of upside this week. Play Gordon or Lascelles. I think I would play. I'd probably play Lascelles to be honest, because I can't guarantee that Gordon will play. Who's the best goalkeeper to replace Sanchez? So I mean, I'd probably think Leno is probably one of the better options, unless you want to spend a lot more money. So that really depends. True Fandela, really appreciate the donation once again. Haven't seen you around, but thank you very much. So your question is -8. You know, Watkins plus Archer into Alvarez. You already have Dominic Solanke and bench Gordon this week, and start Gordon. Let me see. Or you go for a -4 Ollie and start Gordon. Oh, sorry. Haaland, of course, Haaland, Ollie, plus Archer to Alvarez already have Dominic Solanke and bench Gordon this game week. Or look, I much prefer option number one, actually. I think the hit makes a lot of sense. For example, it depends on your situation as well, right? Because what I've done is I will probably go Gabriel in my situation and play him over Gordon. But I guess my question back to you is in your situation, do you have someone who's actually good enough to bench Gordon for this week within your own team? And it doesn't really seem like that's the answer, right? Because Archer's probably your sort of replacement player, so not a great option. I would actually prefer option number one, where you take that -8 if that's the situation, and you go Haaland to Watkins plus Archer to Alvarez. If the hit's already involved, basically. And yeah. Janongo says the message is retracted. Do you just mind dropping another message? Sorry, guys. I think there's some issues with the stream. I'm not sure. Let me see if, or maybe Janonga, you've probably retracted your donation, so I'm not sure what happened there. You've asked play Simicast or Colwell. Look, personally, I would actually play Colwell first because I think Sheffield United home is a perfect game, so I would definitely play Colwell over Simicast. But if there's a way possible where you can play both of them, I would definitely find that. Gordon to Son or Archer to Alvarez. I think Archer to Alvarez is always better than Gordon to another move. Actually, Gordon to Son. I would prefer Gordon to Son. Sorry. I kind of missed that one. Haaland to Solanke or Archer to Raul Jimenez. Look, I prefer the Solanke moves, guys. I just think Jimenez this week isn't going to give you much value. It's Fulham versus Newcastle away. That is just in general a tough fixture, so I wouldn't really take that situation as a good reason to really treat that. Monks, thank you so much for the donation as well. Hey Fran, would you rather keep cash and change Guehi to Porro plus Haaland to Solanke, or cash to Porro and Archer to Solanke so you can bench Haaland? So my assumption actually is that Haaland will probably be back on game week 19, right? So I think it obviously depends on whether you obviously need players to play this week. In your situation, it actually seems like you can make some really, really good moves anyways, without the the need to, let's say, take Haaland out. So I would actually just do the second move that you suggested, cash to Porro and Archer to Solanke, because I think obviously both players, in terms of Porro and Solanke, will play for you anyways on Game Week 18, so you're not too worried about that. And all I would probably ask yourself is the question of, can you field 11 players that are competent and would leave you with a good squad in Game Week 18, or do you actually need to take Haaland out to allow you to have a good Game Week 18 squad? If the answer is that you actually have a pretty good Game Week 18 squad based on your second move, then I would probably just keep Haaland in that situation. The reason why I've gone out of Haaland myself is a little bit different because I can't, like you, for example, I can't go from Archer to Solanke. I couldn't, at least. And so I was blocked from making such a good move. Instead, obviously, I've had to do Haaland to Watkins in the meantime. And that gives me a little bit of breathing room in terms of whether I want to take an additional hit. But that's obviously a very, very different situation. Best budget center back. I think one of the Bournemouth ones could do you good, to be quite honest. Why not Son captain? I just think Salah is at home. I think United are awful as a defense, and just about as awful really as Nottingham Forest as a defense. I know some people will probably not take that kindly, but if you look at the expected goals conceded for United, they're actually below Nottingham Forest. And yeah, for me it's a home and away thing, and for me it's just a very, very clear-cut case of Salah captaincy for me. And Son vice captain, obviously. Who should I start, Lascelles or Tsimikas? I would definitely start Tsimikas in that situation, Martin. Alexander Isak worth a go. Not really for a transfer in my opinion, because I think his minutes are very risky. I don't have any Gordon news. I have him benched because I'm kind of worried about him sort of coming on and actually being someone who could maybe not really benefit, right? Sorry, I totally waffled there, but in terms of Isak, I think the concern there is actually that he's someone who won't get consistent minutes because Wilson's back, and obviously it might be the case that you have Isak playing in the EFL Cup once again, and then Wilson actually plays in the next Premier League fixture. So I think it's very, very hard to say that Isak will definitely be the sort of default starting Premier League striker for Newcastle for the short term. And when you have options like, let's say, Watkins or Solanke who give you those guarantees, I just think it doesn't make sense to go into Isak. Pau or Colwill, I would actually go Pau Torres for sure, because I think Pau Torres is even more nailed than Colwill. So in that situation, Pau will probably give you better guarantees in the future. But obviously, Colwill has the better fixture this week. If money is irrelevant, who's the best defender for the next 3 weeks? I mean, I think it's just Trent, basically, right? Obviously, Trent has an Arsenal fixture, but if we're being realistic, Trent's Trent. And if money's not an issue, then Trent's obviously better than Porro still. Who should I bench out of Colwill, Porro, and Senesi? That's a tough one. I would probably still bench Senesi, actually, because I still like Colwill's fixture more than Senesi's, and I actually still like Porro's attacking threat more than both. Is there news? Sanchez is definitely out of this game. Sanchez is out. Sanchez is missing this fixture. I don't really know how long-term Sanchez's injury is. Play Alvarez or Porro this game week. Look, I would try to play both. I'd be shocked if you could actually bench Porro, but I would play both as much as possible. Obviously, I'd pick Alvarez over Porro anyways. Will Gordon play? I can't confirm that, guys. I can't confirm that. Can't confirm if Gordon will play or not. That's the issue. I mean, we know that Gordon has a fitness test today, but obviously I don't have any sort of insider news in terms of, Newcastle. So There's really no way we can tell. I've got Gordon on my bench, but I'm not 100% certain about that move myself. Buy Palmer or Sterling? I'd probably go Palmer. I think I would take the penalty taker in that instance. Ariel is still injured. I think Ariel is actually fit and ready to play. Whether he actually starts is a different question. Hey Fran, play Wood this week or take a -4 for Isaac and Solanke. I would actually I would go Solanke, but I'm not sure about Isaac. I don't think I'd really take a -4 for Isaac. Is captaining? I think Alvarez is a great differential captain for sure. So if you're actually interested in going for Alvarez, as a pick and as a punt, to go against, let's say, Salah, for example, I think that would be perfectly fine. Start Lascelles or Gabriel? I'd probably still start I'd probably start Lascelles, to be honest, but it really depends on how high you are on both Fulham and Brighton as teams. I think obviously Newcastle and Arsenal are comparable defenses. Arsenal, I think, is still a better defense, but my concern, I suppose, is Newcastle have looked awful as of late, in particular. But the fixture, I would say, obviously Brighton, I would still say, is a better attack than Fulham. So there's a little bit of pros and cons to both. I'd probably still pick Gabriel personally. Actually, thinking about that, I'd probably pick Gabriel. Who to bench? Gabriel, Simicast, or Huang? I'd probably bench Gabriel. Take the attacker over Gabriel this week. Is it worth to sell cash for a hit to basically play any other? Maximum 7 million. I don't think it's really worth taking a hit for cash because I think he could actually start this week as well. So I don't think it's really worth a hit. Fran, you want Foden for Diaby, but Saka has to be a more sensible pick. Yeah, because obviously if you think about it, Foden has a blank game week next week, so obviously Saka's the more sensible pick. Should I play Adingra over cash or sell cash? I would play Adingra over cash and call it a day there. Start McCarthy or bring in Solanke for a hit. I actually quite like Solanke for a hit, honestly. Start Gordon or a -4. That's actually something I'm considering now. I would try and bench Gordon if possible if you have someone good on your bench, but if you don't, I'd probably take the -4. Assuming Lascelles over Gordon to start. Yeah, I think it's just so tough guessing how good Gordon is going to be for us this week, which is also why I'm quite interested in taking that hit. How come I didn't get Solanke this week and then Watkins next? My main issue is that if I go Solanke this week, I'm sort of forcing myself to make a Darwin to Watkins move, but I don't really want to do that because I think there could be a chance that Darwin could stay in my team, for the long term. So that's sort of why I didn't go Solanke. Whereas if I go Solanke, that would sort of block me from Haaland back on Game Week 19. So one of the things that I'm thinking about is I still think Alvarez is better than Solanke, but I think obviously Watkins is better than, let's say, Solanke, between the two of them, right? So, yeah. I think Solanke is better than Watkins this week, but actually, as a long-term transfer, I think Watkins is better than Solanke. So that's sort of my option there. In terms of the short term, I still think Solanke this week is better than, Alvarez this week is better than Solanke. So that's how I would determine it in my head. But I think another thing too to look at is I have a very strong, deep squad, if that makes sense. And on Game Week 18, I don't have a very, very weak team. So it depends on how poor I suppose your team looks like on Game Week 18, and that can make you decide on what you want to do with your team. And yeah, FPL Tony is correct. Yeah, he's already. I mean, Pep already hinted that Haaland was out. Let's be honest. There was nothing in Pep's press conference that suggested Haaland was coming back. He literally made a joke about he'd hope Haaland would come back, but that was very sarcastic. Yeah, so that's something I have to mention there as well. Just quickly checking if I've actually missed out any donations. No, don't think so, but really appreciate the support so far, guys. All right, quickly going back to the chat. Is Solanke a good differential cap? I don't think so. I think Alvarez, Son, and Salah are the best choices right now, especially now that we know that Haaland is out. My rank is ridiculous for this point in the season. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. What are your score predictions for this week? I'm not going to do score predictions. I'm not going to do score predictions right now. Should I start Simicast or Stones? I'd probably start. I mean, Stones actually didn't play. He wasn't early sub in the Champions League, wasn't he? So I'd probably play Stones, to be honest. I think I would try and play both if you have those two players on your team. Am I taking a hit? I'm strongly considering it. We got 28 minutes left for me to determine whether I'm going to take a hit or not. So yeah, something to think about. I'm just going to quickly check some news. Yeah, I don't know. I might take that hit for, Archer to Alvarez in a moment. Um, Yeah, you know what? I'll just take that hit. I'll just take that hit. Let's just take that hit now. I don't really want to waste the last 4 to 5 minutes of the deadline sort of answering questions whilst like being completely razzled. So I'm just gonna take the hit for Alvarez and yeah, call it a day there. First -4 of the season. I don't like it. I don't like it, guys, but let's take it. Let's take it. All right. Julian Alvarez goes in front of Gabriel. And Gabriel goes behind Gordon because I don't really care about auto subs. It's just going to be subs. Vice Captain Son or Vice Captain Alvarez? Vice Captain Alvarez, actually. And then that's it. That's my hit taken. First hit of the season. It's not looking good. All right. That's my first hit done. I don't have to look at my team anymore for the rest of the live stream. The -4 is taken. -4 is taken. No, actually, I'm just gonna quickly tweet about the -4, and then I'll actually be back with you guys answering questions for the rest of the stream. I did want to take this hit though, honestly, all week. So I'm pretty glad that Haaland's out. Yeah. I could even go Trent next week as well, which I think is like the coolest thing about this move. It's not exactly what I love doing. But yeah, I don't love taking hits personally on a single game week, but I just think Alvarez could be on penalties, and that's enough for me. Like, for example, if I knew Alvarez was, like, let's say last week, if we knew that Alvarez was going to start and that Haaland, for example, was out, and I knew, for example, Alvarez was going to play 90 minutes once again versus a very weak team, I would take that chance anyways, I would have taken a hit last week, so I would take a hit this week all the same. Yeah, yeah. This is what streaming at 3 a.m. is all about. I'm starting Colwell over and Simicast over Gabriel. Why? I mean, why is that so hard to understand? I mean, Gabriel's playing versus Brighton, and Colwell is playing versus Sheffield United, while Simicast is an attacking fullback playing versus Manchester United. My first year playing FPL, and your analysis is probably going to be my go-to from now on. I appreciate that a lot, Omar. Will I have enough for Haaland when he's back? No, I'm gonna have to go for Haaland in Game Week 20, guys. That's the situation. That is the situation. How long will I hold Darwin? Probably until Game Week 20. Probably until Game Week 20. Start Gordon or a -4. I've just done -4. I've just benched Gordon. So I hope that answers your question. I think it's super close. I very well could have gone towards the deadline without it, and we've taken that -4 just because. What's the reason for the Gordon bench? I can't be confident that he starts. He's a late fitness doubt. He's been struggling with fitness as of late. Newcastle have been rather poor. I have no guarantees that Gordon will actually play, the full 90 minutes this week. The leak so far, well, apparently we just got reconfirmation that Haaland is out. I don't think we have any other major leaks though, so apologies about that. Take a hit for Martinez. I have Areola and Kelleher. I actually think Areola will start, so I'd probably just go Areola. I'm gonna get Haaland back on Game Week 20 instead. Hey Fran, nice to see you around, Jangster. Hey Fran, between Solanke slash Watkins slash Alvarez as a replacement for. I mean, look, the question has to be sort of thrown back at you a little bit. I think it's between Watkins and Alvarez, right? Because I think Watkins is a bit of a better long term pick just because he's going to be a captaincy option. And then in terms of Alvarez, I still think that he's got the best fixture this week just because he's the penalty taker. Thoughts on Sterling? I think Sterling is interesting, but of course, keep in mind that if you have Sterling and Palmer, you've got two yellow card players. Sorry, two 4 yellow card players, so that's tough. I probably wouldn't take Gordon out. I'd rather go Richarlison actually compared to, let's say, Sterling. The thing is, you've got Semenyo. Yeah, I mean, actually, you could play Semenyo actually as well. So maybe you don't necessarily need to replace Haaland unless you want to. Unless you want to do, let's say, a hokey cokey. Um, yeah, my moves were just to take a hit from Archer to Alvarez and Haaland to Watkins. Bench Bowen or Watkins? I'd probably bench Bowen. I know Bowen has a home game, but still, I think Watkins is just he's insane. Gabriel or Lascelles, you've got Dubravka as a goalkeeper. I'd probably play Gabriel. Should I double up on Spurs defense, Udogie or go for Colwell? I actually think Gusto is interesting. But yeah, I'd probably go with Colwell and then actually just go Colwell and Porro. It depends though. If you have Udogie, I think I don't mind doubling up to Porro because obviously I think Porro is just a better option than Colwell. But if, for example, if let's say your decision is between Udogie and Colwell, which it is, then that's a different situation. Which one of your defenders are you thinking of moving on next? Maybe Simicast for Trent, actually. I might not want to keep double Liverpool defense, but actually, if I can upgrade Simicast to Trent, that would make sense because I actually have the full guarantees of Trent's minutes. It depends, obviously, as I said. Bench Bowen or Watkins? I would probably bench Bowen. Best goalkeeper pair? I think you could still go with Dubravka plus Ederson or Dubravka plus Raya. Start Gordon or Darwin. I would definitely start Darwin in that instance. Yeah, definitely start Darwin. Yeah, sorry. I'm just gonna quickly check if there's any sort of last minute news. Um, yeah. One sec, sorry. All right, so do I take a second hit for Gordon if Semenyo is the bench option? I actually don't think you need a second hit. I think Semenyo is perfectly fine. Semenyo versus Luton at home is very good. What was my reasoning for Alvarez and Solanke? So, for Alvarez over Solanke. So, I think Alvarez just has a better fixture this week, even though I know Solanke is playing Luton at home. I just think, Alvarez playing for City, just in general, is stronger than, let's say, Solanke this week. And I don't necessarily need, a third forward for next week on Gameweek 18. Even though I recognize that, let's say, Solanke has a pretty good fixture next week, I just think Darwin versus Arsenal isn't going to be that much of a loss in terms of value. And then hopefully I'll be getting Alvarez for Game Week 20 as well for Sheffield United at home. So thinking a little bit medium term, I think that's where Alvarez sort of edges out Solanke once more. So it's a case of, let's say, this week and Game Week 20 for Alvarez before KDB's back, which should be the best for me. Jay, I really appreciate the donation. Thank you so much. Haaland to Alvarez / Solanke and Lamptey to Trent -4. So, yeah, the biggest thing here I would suppose is that once again it's a question of how strong your bench is or how strong your team is for Game Week 18. Because I think my team actually looks pretty good for Game Week 18. But the question for you is, I suppose, do you think your team looks good for Game Week 18? And if you think it really does benefit from having Solanke in it, then just go Solanke. I think Lamptey to Trent's amazing though as a move. And I think obviously, yeah, I think you can't really lose out with Alvarez or Solanke this week, guys. I know obviously the outcomes will probably be ridiculous, but let's be honest, you have a chance here to go Solanke, penalty taker, 90-minute player versus Luton Town at home, or Alvarez, penalty taker, 90-minute player for this game at least versus Crystal Palace at home. So obviously different team strengths, right? City team strength definitely a lot stronger than Bournemouth, if we're being honest. So that's why I would obviously favor Alvarez anyways on this fixture. But yeah, a lot of people asking the question of benching Gabriel or Lascelles. I would definitely just bench Lascelles. What do you think? When are you thinking of getting Haaland back? Game week 20 in this situation, just because Everton at home would be Everton away, sorry, is a very tough fixture now. Thoughts on Callum Wilson? I don't think I wouldn't be investing into Callum Wilson just because I think that he can score off the bench. Like obviously he can score off the bench, but if you're already thinking that Callum Wilson is literally going to start from the bench, I don't think it's worth bringing in a player like that. Hey Sophie, really enjoying Japan. Just sorry if covered Salah or Solanke captaincy. For me, it would be a Salah captaincy. I just think, obviously, better underlying stats, midfielder as well, potential clean sheet point. It all sort of favors Salah right now, particularly even the defensive injuries that United have. You took my first hit last game week. Should you do another -4 for Alvarez? I mean, it's up to you, and it's up to really anyone who wants to take the -4 for Alvarez. I think you've got plenty of decisions to make. As I said, I've gone for Alvarez because I think my team for Game Week 18 still looks relatively good. So I feel quite comfortable, making that move. But if you don't think that your team is going to be good for Game Week 18, Alvarez is not going to be a very good transfer for you. So those are the kind of things you kind of need to sort of think about in terms of your decision making. Otherwise, obviously, Solanke is fantastic. You're in 12 mini leagues and you're first in 9 of them because of Fran tips. I appreciate that, Kenan. That's awesome. Alvarez for Darwin, but you already have Bernardo Silva. Yeah, I probably wouldn't do that, right? Because that's probably going to make your team a little bit worse for Game Week 18, unless you're planning to free hit. Gordon, I've got Gordon on my bench. I just think that Gordon, unfortunately, I think there are too many variables for Gordon. He could play 90 minutes, but I think that's a little bit exceptional, right? Because he's really been struggling with his fitness. He's been playing too many minutes for Newcastle, and he just hasn't had enough of a chance to rest from his midweek game in the Champions League. So I just think that Gordon's someone that I don't really mind benching this week. Love your vid, Anonzi. Thank you very much, Anonizi. Mubama for Solanke. I think that's fantastic. Mubama for Solanke is quite good. Your thoughts on punting into Nkunku? I don't know if Nkunku will start, so that's my biggest thing, Anmol. I think Nkunku could come off the bench, and that could kind of ruin your move. Like why take out Haaland for someone who's coming off the bench? I think Nkunku's great in general. As soon as Nkunku gets good minutes, I'll put Nkunku high up on the cheat sheet. But right now, I don't think it's worth it. Why a -4 for Alvarez instead of Trent Alexander-Arnold? I just think there's more upside with Alvarez for this week, right, than Trent. And ultimately, Trent next week is a very, very bad game versus Arsenal on paper. So when it comes to, let's say, the benefit of Game Week 18, I don't think Trent necessarily benefits that much more. Trent, for me, would probably be a Game Week 19 transfer, actually, now that I think about it. Start Gordon or Adingra. I'd probably start Gordon still. I think it's just so much more of a better fixture. Like, you don't really want to be starting Adingra versus Arsenal away unless you have a really poor team, or let's say a lot of suspended players, things like that, for this week at least. Watkins or Alvarez. I think Watkins is still the best transfer just because it sort of helps you with the medium term, right? It gives you a captaincy for Game Week 18. You don't really have to ever sell Watkins. He's just an incredible option in general, and that's it, really. Adingra to Richarlison, I think it's a fantastic move, Leicester. I would definitely make that move. Thoughts on Cunha? I think the interesting thing with Cunha is obviously the fixtures right now for Wolves aren't great. But as soon as, let's say, the Asian Cup rolls around, he might be the penalty taker for this team. So he could actually be even better as an option. Is Gordon starting? I can't confirm that, guys. There's no way that I can confirm that. Start Palmer or Watkins. I'd still probably start Palmer. It's just such a good fixture, Sheffield United at home. And he's a midfielder and penalty taker. When does the next wildcard become available? So actually, the funny thing is the first wildcard, the last window you can actually use is Game Week 20. But actually, if you've already used the first wildcard, the first time you could actually use it is Game Week 20 as well. So, yeah, Game Week 20. Best Mbeumo replacement. And the optimal time to use it, is probably around Game Week 28 to 30, around that period. Best Mbeumo replacement, I would actually say Richarlison right now. Shall I start Solanke instead of Tsimikas or Livramento? I would definitely start Solanke instead of Livramento. I would definitely play Tsimikas as well this week. Start Gordon or Saliba. I'd probably start. Tough one. I'd actually probably start Saliba for safety. But if you want a little bit of risk, if you want a little bit of upside, you can start Gordon. I was actually previously going to start Gabriel, but I don't really mind Gordon off the bench, so I'll take that. Best Mbeumo replacement. As I said, I think it's Richarlison. Start one of Gordon, Gibbs White, Pau Torres. I'd probably start. I'd probably start Gibbs White actually, because I think Gibbs White is going to start again, and I can't guarantee you, for example, Gordon starting. Obviously, if Gordon was fully fit, I would recommend Gordon, then Gibbs White, then Pau Torres. But I'd probably go Gibbs White, then Gordon, then Pau Torres in that order. Am I locked in? Yeah, I'm locked in. I'm probably I'm not going to take any more than a -4. So yeah, completely locked in now. So yeah, that's the first hit of the season for me. I'll have to take it though. AB says, if I'm keeping Haaland, should I start him? And if he doesn't play, Gordon comes off bench, or -4 for Gordon to Richarlison and start Richarlison over Haaland. So that was quite a long question. Um, I actually think that you should probably keep Haaland then in that situation. I think Gordon to Richarlison is actually quite a nice hit. I quite like that one. Diaby to Saka. Yeah, I think that's a perfectly fine move. Why Alvarez over Solanke? I just think Alvarez has a slightly better fixture in the context of obviously Man City being a stronger attacking team. Um, he will also be a penalty taker, and he should also be playing 90 minutes. So he's sort of got all the intangibles that Solanke has this week. And actually, the biggest thing for me is that I think because KDB is not back until Gameweek 21, that should actually give Alvarez, hopefully really, really good minutes versus Sheffield United. And that's enough for me to sort of consider that. Semenyo to Solanke, not worth another -4. Nah, I don't think that's worth a -4. How would you get Haaland back if you get Trent in 19? I would be going Salah out on 20, basically. Yeah. Because I could actually roll on Game Week 18 if you think about it. If I think, let's say, Cash will 100% play, then I can just quickly just play Cash on 18. Then I can go Trent on 19. Then on 20, I can just go Salah. Salah out. So annoyed you didn't think any properly researched and you got Porro instead of you got Porro. Sorry, I'm confused. You didn't think properly, and you get to get Porro instead of Udogi. Watch Udogi get yellow card tonight. I think honestly, Udogi is a good pick because both the attacking fullbacks are very well utilized. In the attacking phase for Spurs, and obviously you can see that benefit from, let's say, Udogi scoring last week. But yeah, the biggest thing I would say with Porro is just in general the amount of set pieces he's on. In general, like I think in open play, the underlying stats are very, very good for Porro anyways. Before, let's say, Porro took away the set pieces after Madison's injury, Porro already had better underlying stats. So that's one of the key things I'd also look towards, in the future. For example, how much XG or XA per 90 the attacking fullbacks are getting. And let's say around game week 8, maybe you weren't sure about Porro's minutes, but we definitely are sure about Porro's minutes now. So that really changes how we should assess players. Should I risk on Nkunku? I don't think Nkunku is worth the risk. I can't even confirm that Nkunku will start, to be honest. I wouldn't be sure about that. Gordon or Isaac, which one should be in playing 11? I think definitely Isaac because, Gordon actually has some fitness issues. He could actually be benched. I'm struggling to think that after Callum Wilson played 90 minutes in the Champions League that Isaac wouldn't start. So I think Isaac definitely starts. Start Castagna or Lascelles. I'd probably start Lascelles. I think I'd back the home team there in that situation. Join me on captaincy Alvarez punt. Sorry, Yusuf. I think I'm just going to go with Salah here. I just think Salah's still the best captaincy. But it's very close. What was wrong with Gordon? So Gordon had a tight hamstring in his Champions League game, and also if you've been tracking his minutes in the last 2 games that he played, for example, in the game week 16 fixture and obviously in the Champions League, he was subbed off at around 68, 72 minutes, and so he's clearly struggling right now with his fitness a little bit. And I think, of course, the biggest thing that Newcastle don't have is that they have depth, right? So or rather they just don't have depth in general. And so Matt Ritchie wasn't in the Champions League squad, so I wonder what's going on there. Maybe they're kind of forced to play Gordon, but I think that's a tough situation. They might just play Ritchie. They might also just play Richarlison plus Longstaff instead. Or even play Isaac left wing and maybe Wilson center forward once again. Why Gordon benched? I think the rest of my team is stronger than Gordon, so that's it. I've taken a hit for that as well. Isaac seems like I don't think Isaac's a good 3-week punt in my opinion. I just think I can't guarantee Isaac's minutes for the next 3 fixtures. I love the Fulham fixture. I think he's going to start there. But after that, can you guarantee Isaac starting the other 2 games? I actually probably can't, so I can't really recommend Isaac that much as a pick. Darwin or Solanke? I would probably go Solanke. I just think it's safer. His minutes are safer. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think also Solanke just versus Luton Town at home might actually already be better than Darwin, so that's the biggest thing there. Ben C, what news have we got? Haaland's out, that's for sure. Other news that we have, we don't actually seem to have any other news, Bensi, so I don't think anything else. Will Gordon start? As I said, I don't know. And also, even if he does start, he might not play very, very good minutes, which is my concern here with the Gordon situation. You can pull the trigger on -4 for Alvarez. I mean, it's what I've done, but I'm not going to recommend that everyone does it. As I said, Alvarez sort of blocks you from getting a good player who could be useful in Game Week 18, right? So you need to sort of think about that sort of risk. Double Arsenal defense or double Newcastle defense. I would definitely play double. I think I would still play double Arsenal defense. You could also just do something where you play one of each, right? If you play one of each, that might leave you in a better situation just because if you don't have any, like, let's say, strong feelings about Arsenal or Newcastle, and actually the clean sheet chances are very close for both, you could feel like you could cover yourself both ways, if that makes sense. Gordon is starting, trust me. I mean, I think Gordon could start. I'm just saying that his fitness has been really poor, so I don't know if he's going to play, let's say, more than 65 minutes or 70 minutes, which is obviously not good enough for me. When I have a chance to, let's say, go Alvarez, Haaland less, basically, in this situation, and have Alvarez as a penalty taker as well, and start him ahead of Gordon. Start Gordon or Tsimikas. I'd probably start Tsimikas. Gordon or Palmer. I'd start Palmer. Best 6 million or lower midfielder, not Palmer. It's tough because I think I quite like Andreas, right? But Andreas doesn't really have a good game this week. So, yeah, I think my answer would be Andreas, but I don't think he's really good for this week to be played. So that's my answer. Even Douglas Luiz, for example, is quite a good midfielder. I mean, Tavernier, I suppose, is quite a good midfielder who actually has a good fixture this week. Maybe that's actually a better answer to your question. But I'm not sure if he's necessarily a midfielder that a lot of people would love. I think he's definitely a good differential. Sterling is a good option. He's a good option, obviously, but I think the risk is 4 yellow cards. Once again, how many players do you have that are on 4 yellow cards on your team? For example, let's say if you double up on Sterling and Palmer, you could have a very, very quick suspension threat. Anyway, 6 minutes left towards the end of the deadline, guys. Try to make your moves as soon as possible. I'm going to go straight to bed after this and hopefully enjoy a massive Spurs game. Play He-Chan or -4 for Alvarez. I don't mind He-Chan, actually, but I do think a -4 for Alvarez is actually quite good for both your situations, Janongo as well. Start Semenyo or Gordon. I'd actually probably start Semenyo, actually. I think it's a really good fixture for Semenyo. Thanks for streaming. Yeah, no problem, Soldier Boy. Bowen Alvarez, definitely Alvarez. Archer or Livramento to start. For me, I'd still pick Livramento, actually. Areola or Dubravka. I've got Dubravka. I know Fulham have been fantastic recently, but let's be honest, like, this West Ham team have looked awful defending versus any team in the Premier League. So my concern really is that, yeah, I think Wolves will probably also be able to score, if you want to look at it that way too. So I think it's very close. This is probably one of Areola's best fixtures, but this is also on paper still a good picture. Still a good fixture for Dubravka. Like, let's not underrate Newcastle at home. Hi, Fran. Play Pinnock or Gordon? It's not a great game for Pinnock, so I'd probably still play Gordon there in that situation. Like, I don't see much upside from Pinnock, so I would probably just go Gordon. Consider Trent Alexander-Arnold Solanke captaincy. I think they're quite rogue shouts. Up to you, obviously. I know there's been some weeks where Trent has obviously outscored Salah, but let's be honest, over the course of, like, if you're to average out, let's say, their points, you'd obviously pick Salah over Trent. So I think, yeah, very hard to always fathom, let's say, a Trent captaincy over Salah. But Solanke as well. Look, I mean, I think there are just other picks this week that actually have it better, if that makes sense. Like, I think Alvarez, for example, has it better slightly. What's the news from Gordon? He has a late fitness test today, so we'll see what happens. But I'm not expecting much from Gordon, which is why I've taken my -4. Bongo Bongo says he's just done Solanke, Haaland to Solanke. You'll reverse the transfer in Game Week 19 or 20. Makes a lot of sense. I think a -4 for Trent makes a lot more sense than a -4 for Pau Torres for this week, at least. So if you want to take a -4, I think Trent makes a lot of sense. Luis Diaz or Son for a -4. Definitely Son for a -4. Diaby to Saka for a -4. I think that makes sense. Why Alvarez instead of Solanke? I just think he's got a better fixture this week. So if you look at the goal scoring odds for Alvarez, he's a little bit higher than Solanke as well. And ultimately, yeah, I think Alvarez could be very useful for me on Game Week 20 versus Sheffield United at home. On top of that, too, I just think my team is actually quite strong for Game Week 18, so I'm not too worried about not owning Solanke for Game Week 18, if that makes sense. Thoughts on Haaland, Solanke, and then Watkins in for Nunes next week? I think you can definitely do that, Don. Haaland to Solanke makes a lot of sense. I think I probably might have considered that, but the issue, I suppose, with let's say going Haaland to Solanke and then Watkins in for Nunez is probably that also forces me to go immediately back to Haaland Gameweek 19. And I think there's some avenues for me to maybe try something a little bit more aggressive, maybe go for Trent on Gameweek 19 instead, as I said, and then maybe go Haaland back on Gameweek 20, just because Haaland in Gameweek 19 versus Everton away isn't a particularly good game. How many glasses? My wife has some earplugs in basically, but I'm not sure. She might be quite annoyed with me, and who knows? She just knows that she wouldn't, for example, be speaking to me until the deadline stream's over, and we'll see what happens. You're 600 in the world. That's awesome, dude, man. You're scared to take a hit. You got Gabriel playing. Should I sell Haaland and start Watkins over him? I think you can definitely consider it. 600 in the world is an incredible rank, first of all. I think when you talk about expected value, like I think Gabriel, his clean sheet odds are actually decently high this week, but like Watkins, I'd say is probably expected to score something like maybe like let's say 1.5 points more than Gabriel. So like yeah, in theory that hit isn't really worth it, I would say, because Watkins doesn't have a great fixture. It's not like Watkins is playing. It's not like Watkins, for example, is playing Crystal Palace at home or something like that. Why is Simicasa ahead of Gabriel? I just think it's a better fixture, right? I just think it's a better fixture. Would you bench Gordon, Udogie, or Lascelles? I'd probably bench Gordon or Lascelles. I'd probably bench Gordon in that situation because I'm not comfortable about whether Gordon actually starts or not. Tavernier in -4 to bench Bowen. No, I don't think that's worth it at all. I think I would just start Bowen versus Wolves at home. How old am I? I'm 25. About to be 26 though. This season, more interested with many options of differentials. Yeah, I mean, look, Haaland being out helps a lot, but I'm also annoyed in the sense that I've invested into Haaland and I'd be very happy owning Haaland this week versus Crystal Palace at home, but I don't actually get to keep him. Anyways, one week until you make your transfers. Play Richarlison or Palmer. I would try to play both, my friend. Honestly, they're both amazing this week, but Palmer first. Why isn't anyone considering Cunha? I just think it's about fixtures, right? Fixtures, and also he's not on penalties until Hwang is gone. So, yeah. I mean, Cunha is also still my cheat sheet as well for what it's worth. Gordon to Saka -4. I don't think it's worth it. Bowen or Alvarez? Definitely Alvarez. Play with Richarlison or Palmer. Onto that already. Tavernier or Bowen for the next two. I'd probably just pick Bowen, if I'm honest. But I don't think Bowen's a good transfer in, though, so I'd probably go Tavernier in that situation. Start Areola, Wolves, or Leno? Definitely Areola, I would say. Well, I think that's it in terms of the stream, guys. Not too much time left. Pens down. Alright, this is actually pens down territory. Well, that's a hit taken. That's a lovely stream as well, so thank you guys so much for joining us for the stream. If you guys could subscribe if you're new to the stream around here, really, really appreciate that. Feel free to check out the cheat sheet series as well, which is sort of my bread and butter, I would say, in terms of FPL content, and see if that's actually something that you quite like, because I think that could definitely help you with decision making as well, even coming towards the streams, unless obviously some situations change, right, like injuries, etc., etc. Focal fans incoming. Oh, Focal, I really appreciate that. I've actually decided to join Focal as well with because I think Focal also did Archer to Alvarez, right? So you've done Archer to Alvarez. I've done the exact same move as well for -4. Appreciate all the Focal fans being around. Awesome Focal raid. How was the stream today? Was it a -8 in the end for Focal? Awesome. So yeah, I mean, I'll probably take some time to just talk about, what I do in terms of FPL. So I would say the biggest thing that I do is a cheat sheet series, which is where I run through all the picks in FPL at every price point and sort of rank them based on underlying stats, what managers are saying, and what I'm seeing on the pitch, really. And that sort of looks at, let's say, the next fixture run, seeing how good certain players are, and whether you actually want to, for example, be investing into them for the short term or the medium term, that sort of thing, and just explaining in detail why they're interesting. So that's my sort of bread and butter series. And on top of that, obviously just do your regular team selections, your preview guides as well, things like that too. I did get Alvarez in the end, actually. So yeah, you can see him on my team. Vice captain Tim as well. But obviously, just looking forward towards a Salah captaincy. I'm gonna have to quickly have a look at your team right now. Let's have a look. Because I do remember, I think just before I went live, I think you said you were going to take a -8. So yeah, we were definitely Gordon on our bench could hurt us, I would say. My bench is definitely not ideal, but I think yeah, it definitely seemed like a good hit to take, just because of how strong Alvarez is as a pick, like in isolation. And I'm hoping obviously to get like the absolute most out of him in Gameweek 22 and see what happens. I think that's totally fine. 15k rank is vicious. Yeah, I've had a pretty lucky start to the season, but I really obviously wish that I actually on wildcard 8. I really wish that I went no Haaland. But arguably there were some stronger managers down under than me who definitely benefited. I just thought Haaland would do a little bit better, to be honest, in terms of captaincies and things like that. And things have changed quite a bit. And Canon, don't worry about that at all. But I really appreciate the support that you give me every week as well. And thanks to all the Focal fans as well who've joined the raid. So Focal did Kabori to Pedro Porro. Lovely move. Haaland to Slanky. Nice. See, I went Watkins, obviously, but I didn't own, for example. I still own Darwin, for example, compared to, let's say, having the chance to go Solanke. So that's one thing. Actually, yeah, if you guys could check out the some of the videos that I do, maybe after the stream, after the deadline sometime, that would be really appreciated. But obviously Oscar's the man. So appreciate you guys for coming on for the sort of raid. And what was his last move? Yeah, Archer to Alvarez, exactly the same as me. But yeah, I did sort of dodge Solanke, so I'm hoping obviously he doesn't do too well versus Luton Town at home. It's obviously a great game. I've got Darwin versus Man United at home. Last season, Darwin did pretty well versus Man United at home. You know, I know he's a shocking finisher, but it is what it is. You hope for the best when you're playing versus the bottom half defense like United. And that's not really to slant on United, but I definitely would say I take a little bit more of underlying stats, like analytical approach, and definitely I look at United as one of the teams to target when I have, let's say, players. So yeah, excited obviously to own 3 Liverpool players who are hopefully starting versus Man United at home. MLK says, do you reckon I bench Lascelles or Tsimikas? I mean, it's a little bit late now, but I definitely would have answered to bench Lascelles. For me, I think United's attack is definitely lackluster, and their defense is also lackluster too. So in that situation, since Lascelles doesn't really have too much attacking threat, I would always recommend Tsimikas in that instance. You're a fan of both of us? Appreciate that, Pumpkin Pea, or Pumpkin Pie. John Hamilton, like. How's the stream today, John? Love your content, mate, Jesse says. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Well, I wouldn't say I hit the nail on the head every week, but I try my best. And I think a lot of the sort of suggestions, right, are obviously just backed on me sort of verifying from multiple sources, like what would be the best moves in FPL for all sorts of managers, depending on whatever their situation is. Who do I support? So I support Real Madrid. I don't actually support a Premier League team, but I think I have a small affinity towards Jose Mourinho's Chelsea team. Although obviously all those players are all practically retired now, or no longer with the club, or for example have somehow been awful in management. So I won't talk about Lampard very much more. Lol, watch out, calling someone else pumpkin pie. What's this? That's funny. Am I a Sagittarius? No, I'm not actually. But yeah, that's a little bit. I would say I'm quite unbiased when I watch United, or sorry, the Premier League. I don't know why I said United. I think I said United because I saw Onana in goal there in another comment. With Onana in goal, Darwin just has to hit the target. I mean, Darwin can hit the target sometimes. I think he can do that. Did I grow up with anybody who was in the Real Madrid youth system? No, I mean I didn't grow up in Spain. But my dad actually grew up. And he went to the army with a very famous player called Emilio Butragueño, right? So there's a very famous Real Madrid team at the time called El Quinta del Butre. And that was a very, very famous Spanish team. And he grew up, obviously, against Butragueño, with Butragueño in the military. But I think most people knew at the time that Emilio was quite a rude person. So my dad isn't very fond of Emilio. And actually, I do have a family member who's actually, in bloodline connected to Emilio as well. What's my favorite thing to do in Japan? I mean, to be honest, just traveling around, actually. Apparently, Gordon passed his fitness test today. Oh, that's great news. That's great news. I've got him benched. Let me have a look. Let me see. Who's saying who's saying he passed the fitness test? I'm gonna quickly check Anthony Gordon on Twitter. That's not gonna make me very happy, guys. Yeah. So many people benched Gordon. Even Andy did. He didn't go Alvarez, but he went Solanke and Watkins, and he benched Gordon as well. Interesting. Anyone else bench Gordon? FPL Salah is actually starting Gordon, but he's also taking a -4 anyways. I think his team's in a little bit of a bad spot though, if I'm honest. So he kind of needed to probably avoid the -8 there. Couple people starting Gordon, couple people benching him. Yeah. I mean, look, even if he passes the fitness test, I think the biggest thing for me and the biggest thing like sort of overriding that decision was or overarching that decision was the fact that he's been subbed off quite early recently, and I think he's just generally been struggling with fitness. JD Cochran too. Yeah, let me actually quickly check his profile and see what he's saying. Gordon has passed his fitness test today. Let's just see how it does tomorrow. Are we sure actually JD Cochran 2 actually has leaks on Newcastle? I wasn't aware that was the case. That's not looking good for me though. I'll tell you that. Oh well, it is what it is. I wish the best for you, Canan, and I hope you get to travel when possible. I don't think Gordon at St. James Park should be ignored, but depends on your midfield options. Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, a lot of players do go on a massive, for example, scoring spree, and obviously this Newcastle team are just electric when they're at home, but ultimately they haven't been stellar recently, right? For example, that recent game when they played versus Milan, that was at home as well. Gordon blanked. You know, if we want to go on the narrative that he hasn't blanked at home, that's sort of technically been ruled false, right? So yeah, to be honest, Alvarez is a banger pick. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying really. I think Gordon. I'm not sure if he's even like he could pass his fitness test in the sense that he's done the bare minimum to start the game because for whatever reason I think Matt Ritchie's also sort of out of the team. He might be injured himself, and yeah, that makes it tough obviously for Gordon to sort of to have to expect like let's say 90 minutes from Gordon. I think. No questions again. Great stream as always, Fran. Keep it up. Appreciate that, SSS. Trini says, is a triple up on the Spurs attack? Yeah, I mean, definitely. Why not? Because I think eventually, right, we're going to go... Well, I guess it's tough to see. Like, I actually look at Porro as an attacking option, honestly. Because they're not getting clean sheets very often. And, Spurs still look very good. I probably would continue to own Porro for the rest of the season. Unless, let's say, in a later wildcard, it doesn't make sense to do so. And I probably would own, let's say, either Richarlison plus Maddison at one point or Richarlison plus Son. I probably don't see myself still owning Son plus Maddison if Richarlison exists. So it's a question of that as well. What are my plans for Gameweek 18? I might actually roll. The question I probably want to ask myself for Gameweek 18 is whether I think Cash will start. If Cash starts for Sheffield United at home, I won't make any transfers. If he doesn't, if I don't think he'll start, I'll probably just go Pal Torres. And that's probably what I think I'll be doing. What do I think about Hwang Hee-chan? Yeah, I mean, Hee-chan's actually been a top pick in my cheat sheet for a few weeks. Obviously, I've downgraded him recently just because he's very, very close to the Asian Cup and he's on 4 yellow cards. So, in my opinion, I think Hee-chan could be an interesting option after Asian Cup. I definitely wouldn't be bringing him now, though. You're pretty swamped with questions, but I started Sterling over Isaac. I think that is the right decision. I think obviously in an ideal world you probably want to start both, but I think Sterling has such a great fixture himself. Alvarez blanks Gameweek 18 actually MLK. You wouldn't consider it until 20. You mean he blanks, or are you trying to say that he's going to have a tough time versus Everton away? I think the big thing about Alvarez though is I see him actually a little bit more as a medium term or short term option. So either he can be my transfer out for HAALAND on Gameweek 20. or obviously I keep him for Gameweek 20 and I have, the double strength sort of attack of, let's say, Alvarez plus Haaland versus Sheffield United at home. SSS says he's got Nunez and Alvarez. Yeah, that's a tough call. I think the issue, of course, is that Nunez got such a nice rest versus his Europa League opponent, right? And so, Nunez versus Man United at home, I mean, I don't want to pass on that either, so I can understand. Am I planning on selling cash after the Sheffield fixture? Definitely, I think so. If I can sell cash for someone competent, I think I'll do so. Maybe, for example, I could go cash to Zinchenko at one point as well. Because obviously, if that Tomiyasu injury is actually quite long term, then it makes a lot of sense to actually go and make that move. Another thing too about Hwang, just talking about that, is it's always easier to, for example, have 5 midfielders at any one time, whereas we don't we always like being in a 3-5-2 structure. But let's say in the case of Alvarez, because he's actually my third attacker, it's not really a huge issue in terms of the blank game week. Whereas let's say I went into Richarlison, for example, this week, I'd still have a pretty weak squad for Game Week 18, if that makes sense. Colin says, may the Isaac move, hope he starts. Yeah, I mean, look, Isaac's definitely good for Fulham. I can't say about starting the next 2 fixtures, but that's that. But yeah, I think that's it in terms of the stream. Really appreciate you guys for being around. Thank you again to Fogle for rating. And I hope you guys have a lovely time. If you guys can like and subscribe, that would be lovely. And I'll see you guys, hopefully for future videos, hopefully for future live streams as well. Hopefully I'm a little bit less tired. Unfortunately, obviously, it's like 3:43 a.m. here. But yeah, am I going to post any Japan food photos? I don't share too many photos on Twitter. Probably not. But I'll share a little bit of memorabilia maybe on Twitter. We'll see, obviously. And thank you for everyone who's been a part of the stream. Hope you guys have some lovely green arrows, and I will see you shortly.